I would say there is a bit of a distinction in terms of rent between these different cities. The bigger the city is, the more the rent is. So if you guys are coming into a university that is, you guys want to know what the living expenses are, shout out a comment so that we can actually create something for you guys, and we'll lay down the exact finances for every university, whichever you guys are going into. How's your Saturday morning, man?
Not bad. I had a great Friday night. I had a great Saturday planned. I think this bit, like literally just this like 2-hour break with you, talking to you and explaining, going through like reliving the crisis that I went through during university. That's exactly what I want out of a relaxing Saturday morning. Out of all the things that I could have done with my time, just slept like 5 minutes more, enjoyed, played FIFA a bit longer, all of that out of a.
I know. This is your favorite part of the day, right?
I don't know about that, dude. Like it's a massive L, but I'm glad to be here. I'm really excited because I think we had a very important topic to talk about today, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct. So before we jump into the topic, really quickly, if anyone likes our previous 3 episodes, please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. Like, we really need your subscriptions. We are trying to reach that 100 subscriber mark as soon as possible. So let's try to reach that number as quickly as possible. Sorry.
I was gonna say, and last time that we discussed, if we reach 100 subscribers, Arno's going to put a bag over his face.
This man just.
And then.
Bro, why do you want to hide my face? It's the best quality of this video.
I don't know if that's necessarily true, but it is what it is.
But yeah, okay, and yeah, if you guys have any suggestions on what we need to cover, if you guys are struggling with something during university or during getting a job, please comment on the video so we can help you guys with that. We have gone through it, we have experienced it, and we are hoping that we can actually help you guys with that same experience. All right, Mo, today. So the topic I touched was very relatable to the last week's episode. So anyone who hasn't checked out, please check out episode 3. I will put it in the description, and
or it might show up in one of these links. Like maybe if I point here, you can put the link right here. Like those fancy.
The problem is I don't know how to embed YouTube videos yet.
That's fine. Like honestly, how many engineers does it really take? Like maybe 1, maybe 2. We can figure this out. Put the link here. Just put it everywhere.
Just put it everywhere.
Like I'm gonna do some like random pointing. You can just add it maybe here too.
Okay.
All right. So.
But yeah, if you guys don't see that pointing area, like then it would be on the end screen most probably, and it would be in the description, and hopefully like somewhere on a card somewhere around here. All right. So let's move on. The topic for today is living during university. So Mo, I know you're an international guy, came from Bangladesh. In school you came here to Canada around, like you said, 7 to 8 years ago, right? 12 years ago now, I guess.
Well, I would say 13 years ago.
13 years ago. Okay. Yeah, but you were a domestic student when going into university, and I think that's where my first question was. Like, you lived at home and you said that you had to make that commute. You were scared for the exams, everything. For the 80% of the people who live on campus, what do you think? How would you like describe their experience compared to someone who lives off campus or like lives with their parents like an hour ago?
Right. So great question. I think this is something that I discussed with my parents and my younger brother, who is going to university right now. They're both sides, like living downtown or when I say living downtown, living near your university. Maybe your university might be uptown or might be in a city and you're living there versus like your parents live in another city or another suburb. Both sides have their advantage and disadvantage. For me, particularly, I think I would have enjoyed living closer to university. at least for the first year, like just to have that experience, I really, really would have enjoyed it. So I can't talk about like what the exact experience was living downtown for a lot of these students, but I would see myself in comparison with my peers on like what they could do versus what I was doing, and the differences were significant enough for me to like say that, hey, I would have probably benefited more if I lived downtown. Sorry.
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think so as we touched upon it, even in our last episode a little bit, there are benefits we can see from the social side of things, from the cultural side of things, as he mentioned that he discussed with his parents. And now that we know a bit about you, we know that, you weren't in the best financial standings. What do you think is the financial cost? Like let's take U of T as an example for now, because
Right.
of course we know more about it, and let's see like
Right.
what was the financial cost of living in downtown?
Right. So yeah. So as I think one of the things, like I had to manage my tuition costs. I was not going to ask my parents for money for education. So University of Toronto engineering for domestic students first year was around, I would like to say it was around 15K. 15K associated with like additional costs of like maybe like $1,000 of like book like other fees. So like $16,000 was your yearly fee. I had a bit of OSAP, and for anyone who is not aware of what an OSAP is, it's the Ontario Student Assistance Programs, which is like a loan that you get from the government that you don't have to pay back till you graduate. So you can get this loan from Ontario government just within Ontario. So I used that, but that didn't cover all of my financial costs either. So OSAP only covered half of it. So I had to manage the other half of my tuition costs. So OSAP covered around like, I would like to say 6K or 7K per year. And I had to come up with the other bit. So like the first thing that I did was like for finance wise, I had to look for scholarships. Like when I was before going to university, I was hounding for scholarships. I was fortunate enough that I had like decent grades so that like when I got into university, I had like the entrance scholarship, which was, I believe, closer to like 5K. And then I had some other additional scholarships that I wrote. Like, I wrote essays and whatnot. By the way, it's really easy to get these scholarships, which I will touch upon on a different video, because like I don't want to convolute this one thing. But I managed to get like these mini scholarships, which ended up giving me a bit of money for just to get enough by so that I could pay my tuition and like the additional costs. Once I had the basic educational costs done, I realized that I needed about like $300 to $400 for books and like all like stationaries and books and stuff. So I had to like save that money somehow. So what I did was like before joining university, that summer I ended up working, and I was working at Winners as a sales associate. So that ended up giving me some money to like cover for the next year.
Is that why Winners is going down?
Yeah, bro. I don't know why you ever take the. I had the most. Like I think I was the youngest kid in the entire store. Everyone else in the store was like in their like mid-20s, mid-30s. Like they were like discussing, I drove at 80 on a 60 zone. I got a speeding ticket. I'm like, bro, I'm taking the bus here every day. I don't know what kind of luxury that is, like driving 80 on a 60 and getting a ticket and you're complaining about that. Mans are out here trying to live by, trying to gather money for university. Oh my goodness, horrendous. Sorry, would not like to like jump into that. Winners, if you're watching this video, or anyone from Winners who are watching this video, shout out. But like, if you would like to sponsor us, 100% wouldn't deny it. Winners Associates go through a lot. Anywho, sorry, going back.
Yeah.
Definitely. So obviously there was like that financial aspect. So like I saved a bit of money by working for the next summer. So like I had a bit of money in my pockets. Finally, so then that's where I was at, and then I was like debating at that point where like if I should live downtown, but financially at that moment in time in my life, it didn't make much sense for me to live downtown, because as I said, like I think my parents, like financially we were never like struggling, but we weren't like filthy rich. Like
right.
to me living downtown while having a place within Greater Toronto area was a luxury. And this is so not true for a lot of people. I would like to just say that like that was true for me, just because of the financial situation that we were in. Anywho, so I lived uptown. My commute was like an hour and a half, but I think I saved more so on like about, I would like to say $1,500-$1,600 a monthly rent at the time.
Yeah.
Plus, on top of that, food. People don't consider this. Food is expensive. Groceries is expensive. It adds up. Like I lived downtown Toronto, like during one of my internship years, like for like 4 months, and it really adds up. Like your rent plus food makes you want to cry. But you know, I saved on that bit of money. Where I spent most of my money, I would like to say, was like I spent it on eating out, and I did that mostly because like I didn't want to bring food all the way, because bringing food all the way from home to university was like an hour and a half commute. So that food would have gone bad. I tried doing that once or twice, and like the food went bad. So I was like, yeah, no, this is not a viable option. So I saved a bit of money per month, like about like I kept like about $100 to $150 per month for myself for just like sustaining food and whatnot. So I think if you just work like one summer before university, like with casual shifts, like I would say if you work like 30 hours a week or so, you should have enough saved up for like you should, even 30 hours a week for minimum wage should cover you enough if you're living with your parents, like for the next whole year, like for your basic costs. One last thing that I did was like every weekend I did tutor some kids. I'm not going to name them out, but I have sent them these videos. So if you're watching this, I would still like to say tutoring those kids was probably one of the most humbling experience that I've ever had. And my kids, they're actually, I would like to call them my kids, but like they're going to university now, and I'm so proud of them. So yeah, that's how I made like a bit of
I mean, the side jobs is definitely a great experience. So I like it, just like it's great for you because not only does it like give you the money that you need during university, but it also creates that experience, as well as sometimes an emotional connection in most cases, right? So and you make friends from it. You can make friends from work, and that's always useful outside of university as well. But
100%.
yeah, so but like let's come back to the money aspect of things more really quickly. So from the money aspect of things, living in downtown, because when I came as an international student, like there are people who are decently well off. I think, like watching the video, there are people who might not be well off but are international students coming into the country, right? Now you guys are probably paying a lot of money, right? Like a huge amount of money. Just to be clear, U of T would cost around $45,000, and at this point around $55,000 per year. That's the cost. When I was coming in, on average I paid around $50K per year. So it is an expensive university, and not everyone can afford it, especially if you're going there for 4 years. Now, in terms of rental, so this is something that a lot of people will be looking at. They'll be like figuring out coming into university, and especially like now that like it's already end of July, which means that within a month people would be coming into different universities like U of T, UBC, University of Waterloo. So the top universities. I would say there is a bit of a distinction in terms of rent between these different cities. The bigger the city is, the more the rent is. So if you guys are coming into a university that is, you guys want to know what the living expenses are, shout out a comment so that we can actually create something for you guys, and we'll lay down the exact finances for every university, whichever you guys are going into. But for now, specifically U of T, I would say like when I came into university, like the rent was somewhere from 600 to 700 at the very lowest in downtown, to somewhere around 2200. That's what I saw as the peak of people paying, and that's per month, by the way, guys. So that comes out to be around coming somewhere between $10,000 a year to up to $25,000 a year. That's what you'll be paying for living. In terms of food, I would say like the food was between depending on how much you eat out, obviously. From someone who ate out a lot, like I did eat out a lot, lived in university quite a lot. My generally my goal was like I would try to leave early morning and come back late night and just stay at university. Even if I wasn't doing anything, even if I was just chatting with people, I what I tried to do was just be there, and that generally encouraged or motivated me to just work a little bit more. And like people would be working all the time, so I would just do a little bit more work. So it was just small nuggets that helped me, but that meant that generally for lunch I was going out and eating. And a lunch meal right now would cost you between $10 to $12 here. And depending on how much you eat out, I would say in terms of groceries, you can go from $600 a month to about like a couple of $1,000 a month, really. So realistically, you're again looking into spending between that $10,000 to $24,000 mark. You can like generally people are between that thousand on average. People I think are between that $1,000 mark per month. But people do. I know people who have gone up to that $2,000 mark.
Yeah, I think for me, like the experience, like the map that I did was like, yeah, exactly the thing that you touched on. Like rent itself would have cost me about like 12, 13K.
Yeah.
And then groceries would have cost me around like another 12, 13K. So each year, for at least for a domestic student, I would have paid like 15, 16K for tuition, and then like 24, 25K for living downtown plus eating out and whatnot. So that would have been the general expense and whatnot. I didn't have that. My my monthly budget was closer to, I would say, at most 300-ish, 400-ish, versus like someone who was living downtown, they would have spent closer to like 2.5 grand, or I would say three grand a month. So almost like a solid 10 times. But again, I would like to say you're paying with your mental sanity, you're paying with your time, you're paying with your physical stress.
Yeah.
Like while you're doing this. There are good sides and bad sides to both of them. Good sides is like, yeah, if you're living downtown, it's great, and if it works out for you, it's great. But imagine this: you're living downtown, you do all of this, and your grades are still bad, or you're mentally still not satisfied with like what happens, which is something that I struggle with. Like my grades were not super good ever. Like I would like to flat out say that. Like I was a very average student. Like I could not be any more average than like an average year 2 engineering student. And I was happy with it. But if you're living downtown, if you're paying 10 times more than what I was spending, and you had the same grades as I do, I know a lot of people who are not happy with that outcome, and it's mentally draining. So just do the math, see if you would like to like do that. So for me, that was like a big choice, because like I was like, I can not spend a lot of money and be mediocre, versus I can also spend a lot of money and still be mediocre. So I was like, okay, like that makes sense. Like I can just be mediocre.
I love how you already knew you were mediocre.
Bro, it's okay. There's nothing wrong to be an average person. I don't understand why I always get called out by this little shit. And you know what? It's fine. It's totally okay.
But okay. One thing I really wanted to touch upon now, like of course, as I mentioned, a lot of people right now they would be looking for housing. What, in your opinion, was the best place for housing? Like, what do you think was the best website that you went to? Of course, we don't want to promote a lot of websites, but I think it's a good information that students would like to have right now. Yeah, go ahead.
So I can talk about this, but I think you should touch upon, since you actually live downtown. I think this is something that you should definitely like. What did you do for as an international student? Like, where were you looking at whatnot?
Yeah. So for me, it was just crazy, man. Like there's an entire story there. So when I came here in first year, it was just there was so much information. I had nowhere. Like there was nobody to guide me, right? Like nobody told me where to live. I did have my parents who came into Canada with me initially to help me like just find a place and settle me down, right? So what happened is like I was a late admission into Canadian University, and which meant that I didn't get the campus, right?
Mm.
Now, people would be thinking, oh, so you must have spent a lot more money because you didn't live on campus. Generally, guys, it's the opposite. At least for UFT, generally it's the opposite, especially for engineering, because they put you into a campus called Chestnut, which is basically a 4-star hotel. Now, it doesn't. It sounds really good, and it is pretty good, like in first year. But the truth is, it's very expensive. The food is not the best, like in terms of, yeah, you do get a buffet, but like, you're not gonna eat there 3 times a day. You just don't have the time. But also, I think like you get fed up of the same food. Like the food is like very similar, and at some point, like I could see like a lot of my friends not eating from the cafeteria because it was the same food every time. And yeah, people have different preferences, right? So you are like your rent already also includes food. So you pay like 24 2500 a month sometimes. And because you're paying that extra amount of money for food as well as living, now when you go out and eat, you already feel the burden of like, okay, now I'm spending twice as much money on food, right? So that's the first point, that I didn't get the campus, which meant that now I had to look for a place outside the campus accommodation. And so for campus accommodation, I found like a place for myself, which was around $1,100, basically on Kijiji. It was a 2-star hotel too, but it was somehow like I was lucky enough that I got a 1-person place where I got someone who would come in, literally like clean my place once a week. They would change my sheets and they would like give me fresh towels, which is
Yeah.
incredible. Like nobody does that in downtown. Like let me just be very honest with you, that would almost never happen if you're coming into first year. You would probably be responsible for doing everything by yourself.
So I would like to put a pause on this. Arnav actually comes from Indian royalty, so I'm not sure about you guys. This is exactly that's how he figured that deal out. He was like, you're like, based on my royalty and my status, this is exactly what should we have. I'm kidding. I'm
That's
joking.
what
No,
we
so
need,
that-
yeah. No. It was
that-
just, and it was.
I would not like to offend anyone. I also would like to say that there's nothing called an Indian royalty. Oh, well, I don't know. I wouldn't know. Maybe there is. Is there?
There is, but I'm not one of them.
No. That was
There are old royal families in India, but like there's no such thing as like a royalty anymore. But yeah,
that's messed up. They're gonna come for me, dude. Right now, please, if you don't see me in this video, again, I'm saying a lot of things that I should not be saying and joking around about this, but like maybe I should just stop talking. All right, continue.
well, it would be the Arnav show from the next time onwards, so that's good.
Agree.
But okay, but coming to the facts, like I was paying $1,100 first year, which was great. But the realities are, there are some things that you don't recognize or you wouldn't realize are gonna be hard things for you to do, which you wouldn't have like taken into account. For me, for example, just doing laundry was such a hard thing to figure out initially because I'd never done it before, right? Yeah, I mean, I come from a part of privilege, but that's true. Like it was such a like, oh, you have to separate the whites from the colors. Oh my god, I didn't know that. So you would make mistakes. You would learn how to cook. I would actually get that dabba, like a tiffin service, which is basically like once a week I would go and carry this massive box of food from the restaurant to my place, which would have all the food that I need for dinners for the week. And so you realistically, it was just it would be around $50 a week, so it wasn't really bad in terms of money, but it was still a lot of effort because I had to bus there. It was pretty far away, and then you had to carry that, take it to the bus, and then you had to come back, right? And so in the cold, especially in Toronto, like if you're in the cold, that's a very hard walk. So you're gonna have those challenges, but necessarily what I mean is like I've seen my friends, they're trying to live Middletown, which is like near St. Clair in Toronto, for anyone who's seen, to save money. That's an option. You can live in Midtown. You can live a little far from university. Generally, the prices are a bit more expensive. Now there are websites like I know like rentals.ca, which will give you a very general rental area, Pad Mapper, which will also give you like a map, and then you can actually find places. Kijiji is always decent. Facebook also posts. Facebook has their own like housing channel, so definitely Google that, like Facebook Housing Toronto or Facebook Housing Waterloo or wherever you're located, and you'll probably find like some sort of university channel. Another thing I would recommend is like talking to people. Like maybe talk to people who are like in university or going to university, who are domestic students. They would have gone through the same experience as you, and maybe check out our podcast. But the point is like you should be able to find that information somewhere, and get that questions answered maybe like a couple of months in advance before you're coming to university, because
Right.
the prices do skyrocket, especially during
Yeah.
September.
I would also like to, I think you touched upon like a really good point that I want to expand just a bit more. Do your research. Like, do not settle. Don't like, I think me, especially living in Seattle right now, and like obviously house hunting is a thing that we all do. Like, I I've had so many bad experiences by finding houses and like landing on the first thing that came up was like, oh, okay, this fits into my $1,500 bucket. Okay, let's just go for it. Don't look into the first house that goes into it. Do your research. Do house tours.
Yeah.
If you are able to do it, please do it. If you're an international student, I think even if you just Airbnb for like the first like month and just look around, see what works for you, live in the city for a bit. It's such a crucial experience. I know it's probably not financially, it's not the most effective way, because if you're like, oh, like I'm losing money on the Airbnb,
Yeah.
fair. But if you're stuck with a place where you can't feel comfortable, if you're stuck at a place where you're like, hey, this place is giving me hell, like you're going to be stuck with that for the rest of the year. It will hurt your mental health,
Yeah.
and it is not worth it. I think you spending the extra $200-$300 just to like scope out where you want to stay and whatnot is so crucial. Even just for a week, like Airbnb, and then stay in the area and see how you feel about it. And if you're good with it, honestly, why not? But if you're not good with it, you avoid a year-long mistake that you don't have to like commit into.
Guys, sorry,
Yep.
sorry to cut you off. Like I just do you have something to finish it off? No?
I was gonna say, join Facebook groups. I think, especially for big cities, all these like big websites, PadMapper, Zillow, Rentals, like these are all really good. But small cities like Waterloo or Laurier, they have tons and tons of university Facebook groups. If you just search University of X housing, University of X student housing, city apartment housing on Facebook, you'll get tons of groups. Just join them and go through the posts.
Right.
But also please be aware of the scams that also happen. So yeah, just take that with a precaution. These are just advice.